session on connecting the dots. First and foremost, we extend our gratitude to our esteemed speakers for their participation in this panel discussion. Dr. Brilliant SK, EVP and Chief People Officer at Times Pro, Mr. Tejinder Oberoi, Executive Director at Signet Infotech Private Limited and Chairman at Indo-American Chambers of Commerce, Ms. Purnima Srinivasan, Vice President HR at Tesvagram Technologies, and Ms. Shivani Malhotra, Partner and MD for at Positive Vibes Consulting. A warm welcome to all. Hybrid and remote work models are transforming the modern workplace, offering employees flexibility and better work-life balance. These models reduce commuting and operational costs while expanding talent pools. However, they also pose challenges in team collaboration, cybersecurity, and employee engagement. To thrive, companies must invest in digital tools and foster a culture of trust and communication. Our esteemed panelists would be sharing their views on this insightful topic, the shift to hybrid and remote work. HRAI welcomes you all to the session on connecting the dots. To know more about HRAI and its events, I would request all the participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all the participants to kindly give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege of
Hi,
introducing the moderator for the session, Ms. Shivani Malhotra, Partner and MD at Positive Vibes Consulting. Shivani Malhotra is an award-winning HR and learning specialist with over 20 years of experience in senior HR roles across Indian and multinational companies. A Business World 40 Under 40 awardee, she has also received numerous awards for her contribution in the field of HR, learning, and OD. An MBA from Symbiosis Center of Management and HRD, Shivani founded Positive Vibes Consulting in 2016, specializing in HR strategy, leadership development, and organization design. Renowned as an HR thought leader, leadership coach, and people strategy expert, Shivani's dedication to excellence has positioned her as a trusted mentor, guiding professionals, teams, and organizations to achieve sustainable growth and success. Shivani is also empaneled as a mentor of change with Niti Aayog, Government of India. You can follow her on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. And without wasting much time, I hand over the platform to Shivani. Over to you.
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you, HR Association of India, for inviting all of us today and for choosing to discuss such you know, um, trending topic, I would say. And not too long ago, the traditional office setup was considered the so-called gold standard for productivity and collaboration. But in the past few years, we've seen massive transformation, one that has actually redefined how, when, and where we work. So what started as a necessity during the pandemic has now evolved into a long-term strategy for many organizations worldwide. And today we have an incredible panel of industry leaders and experts who will share their insights and experiences and strategies for navigating this new world of work. So we'll deep dive into the challenges, explore the best practices, and discuss what the future holds for remote and hybrid work models. So let me briefly introduce today's panelists. So our first panelist is Dr. Brilliant SK. He's the VP and Chief People Officer at Times Pro. He champions a performance-driven culture, prioritizing learning-centric approaches in every operational and quality improvement initiative. He's also a Gallup certified strengths coach and Marshall Goldsmith certified executive leadership coach, and was conferred the top 10 global influential CXO award in 2024. Welcome, Dr. Brilliant. It's great to
thank
have
you.
you as a co-panelist.
My pleasure.
Our second panelist is Mr. Tejinder Oberoi. He's the Executive Director of Signet Infotech and Chairman of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, Gujarat branch, with 34 years of experience in technology, business strategy, and global trade. He's also the chairman of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce Gujarat branch, and he actively fosters a bilateral trade in that forum and collaboration between India and the US, strengthening economic and business ties. It's an honor to have you as a co-panelist on the board, Mr. Oberoi.
Thank you. Thank you.
And last but not the least, our third panelist is Purnima. Purnima Srinivasan is a distinguished HR leader with more than 20 years of experience in the industry. Celebrated as a champion for people, she excels in cultivating high performance teams while emphasizing employee wellness and creating a people centric workplace. Wow, I love that term, people centric workplace. Her contributions have earned her accolades, including the Global HR Transformation Excellence Award from HRST in 2024 and recognition as CHRO 2024 by CXO Lanes. It's great to have you here, Purnima.
Same here.
So I think we should now get started. It's a very interesting topic that we have. And to the audience who have joined us today, in case you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat box, and we'll be happy to, take those up during the course of the discussion. So we'll start, Dr. Brilliant, with you. And my first question to you is that, while remote or hybrid working became the norm in COVID during the pandemic, and it has continued afterwards as well for a lot of companies. So, what are the biggest leadership mistakes that the companies make, in your experience, when they are transitioning to hybrid or remote work?
Thank you, Shivani. Can you all see me? Can you all hear me? I'm sure we are all used to this, right? That's
Yes.
what is the trademark of a virtual or a hybrid environment. And we are so used to it these days that we've now forgotten about can you see me? Can you hear me? It's become like, okay, this is a checklist activity. So if I look at some of the challenges or mistakes that leaders probably tend to make, I'll put it in 3 bullet points. One is unclear expectations, right? And this is the number one gap that I have seen, especially when it comes to asking some questions. When you move to a hybrid or a remote organization, how would learning happen? How would appraisals be conducted? How would my R&R work? How would I ensure manager engagement? There are so many elements that needs to be called out before an organization jumps into hybrid or remote transition. Shivani, it's very easy, and you were talking about gold standard, and it sets a sort of a FOMO, the fear of missing out for many. In the good old days, you can give lavish infrastructure, but what can you do in a hybrid or a remote mode? And that's something which is critical. What worked for X company will not work for you. And leaders need to define policies, tools, specifically performance expectations to avoid any kind of chaos that happens. The second element of this is the OSFA model. You heard of OSFA model? You have. It's one size fits all, right? And the truth is, we all tend to get carried away by saying, "Arey, idhar chal gaya, idhar bhi chala lete." It will work. And I can give my company's example, Times Pro's example. When we were building teams in tech, product, sales, we had to balance it out effectively. We were transitioning from COVID, and talent was all across India. And getting tech talent to come and work for us in Mumbai was becoming a challenge. And at the same time, there were teams which I could not let them operate remotely for reasons of security, for reasons of monitoring. And that's when we decided to think about, can we segregate the teams into areas which can operate either fully remote, hybrid, or fully in office. And the call is taken by the SBU head so that it is not a one size fits all. And there are exceptions which are granted. So for example, I have a talent in one of the niche technologies, which is somewhere in a place called Jharsuguda, and not willing to come to Mumbai or any other place. What option do I have? If I have to build talent and to ensure BAU, I will have to opt for that. So I think move out from that OSFA model. And the last but most important element is the lack of effective tools for productivity management. We all get very excited to say, yeah, we are 100% work from home. We don't have offices. We take pride in that. But when we ask about how do you measure productivity, how do you ensure that every staff member is contributing to what he or she has been hired for, or they have been hired for that matter, 20% of the people misuse it. And unfortunately, the 80% suffers. So unless you have the right kind of tools with the control and a mechanism to review it, I don't think we will be able to get into a mode to say, I can jump into hybrid or a remote mode. And it is difficult to achieve a zero, I would say, misuse. I would go with minimal misuse for the sake of discussion and ensure that at least the maximum people can benefit by devising these methodologies to measure productivity, which is a direct impact on not just performance, but also on the company's productivity. Over to you, Shivan.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Brilliant. It was, uh, I think, very well articulated, especially the OSFA model is what stands out, that it's not a one size fits all approach. And as we progress in this discussion, we will talk about, some industries in which it is absolutely not possible to have a hybrid or a remote, workplace. For example, healthcare, example, hospitals. It's absolutely impossible. Even in the COVID times, those were the essential services that were on. So I think one needs to have a very balanced view of what is possible and what is not possible. One size fits all, of course, does not work. I'd like to ask Purnima, what is your take on this, Purnima, in your experience of working as an HR leader? What do you think? Where is it that organizations fail to plan when it comes to a transition?
So, Shivani, in my opinion, right, the first thing that happens when people start working remote is unconscious bias. I mean, unconscious or conscious bias. There is a lot of favoritism for in-office culture from the organization itself, saying that people who come to office are serious about their job, people who come to office need promotion, and also saying that only people who come to office work. But it could be the other way around also, where people come to office are mostly Vela also, right? Taking breaks, taking work. Who are on remote actually plan their work. So I think this is the biggest challenge, or which most of the companies don't kind of look into it. The notion that out of sight is out of mind, and these are the thing. This is one major thing in my opinion that companies kind of slide. Second is they somehow lose the trust in that employees who are working remote saying they will kind of deliver even if they are remote. It's like over monitoring them and understanding what are you doing, what was your deliverables, you worked from home yesterday, what did you do. I think that trust is something that also kind of it's the employees who feel saying maybe I should just go to office and work, that is more better. And assumption is the biggest killer, I would say. I mean, like Mr. Brilliant was mentioning, clear communication or expectation out of the role is not there. And inadequate professional development, people assume that, mostly the management assumes that people who are remote do not need mentors, do not need professional development. Maybe they are not interested in, growing. That is why they are remote. I think these are some of the reality challenges that I see that companies overlook when giving remote or remote culture, from my opinion.
Wow, Purnima, absolutely bang on. I love the first point that you made and the unconscious bias. And I agree with it. And we do have, unfortunately, leaders in the industry glorifying that with all kinds of statements that keep coming from CXOs to come back to work. So I think it's a very like a personal choice in terms of which industry, like I said earlier, it is relevant to or not. And I also agree on the second point that you made, which is around trust. In fact, I've also experienced that there is over reliance on outdated management styles that emphasize presence over productivity. So whether there is, in metros, you spend so much time in commuting. And if you ask the employees who, travel to work from far off places, they will tell you that if I get to work even one day a week from home, that'll be the most productive day of the week for me. and that's the reality. So so I totally endorse your points, Purnima. Thanks for sharing. Tejinder, what's your take on this?
I'll possibly bring in a different perspective, primarily employer perspective. Uh, what, remote or hybrid working was entrusted on us. It just happened, and probably none of us could prepare for it. We were forced, all of us were forced into it, and they were not enough, and we adopted it. We accepted the change. While we realized that there were not enough methods to measure productivity, there was not enough methods to engage, and a lot of it depended on open policies, trust, and initially we got very good responses. Later we realized a lot of misuse also the same happening. So probably an evolution of the process is happening. One thing is for sure, industries like technology, industries like finance, industries like consulting. I think hybrid or remote working is here to stay. And we will need to find and adapt to methods wherein people can work remotely. I think as HR professionals, the onus will definitely come on HR professionals to be able to build policies and procedures so that definable tasks can be given. Let's say, especially in some of these areas, we do not really have definable tasks. Well, we work in a services, we run a services IT company, and our customers have been using that method. Let's say if I have a customer in US and he uses a desk of 10 people at my office, he's actually, for him, whatever he is doing is remote, and he has been using it for years together. Whereas we were reluctant to allow that employee to go home and work. So it's just an extension of that same thing that has to happen. It is here to stay. We're learning, we're trying to find out. Sometimes we are reactive because of certain people's reactions or certain people's misbehavior. We tend to put everybody in the same box, try to come out with, like we heard recently that TCS wanting everybody to come to office, or something similar happening in some other enterprises also. But let us understand that we are not dealing with factory workers in this business. And employees will go away if we don't handle them with trust and give them enough leverage to work or give their work in their own way. So I think we have to evolve a process. All of us must deliberate on it on these forums and otherwise within our organization to find out what are the best practices emerging which are effective for each other. One size fits all will not be there. So we'll continue to change, but I'm optimistic that this is a process here to stay. And if we don't change, we will perish.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that different perspective. So yes, definitely it's here to stay. We all agree on that. And but it has to be, again, like all of us agree, it's not a one size fits all approach. In fact, just adding one more, dimension to this, that even in the industries, where work from home is discouraged or, not encouraged, let me put it like that, we have to understand that there is a very sizable generation of people in the employees who are your Gen Zs and the younger lot who do demand flexibility at workplace. And for them, it is it is one of the defining factors to make career choices these days. So while we all may have, our opinions in terms of how right or wrong is that, but that is a reality. So it's not just industries that we have to see which industry can do hybrid well or not, but also the working population in those industries is very diverse, and hence the needs of everyone has to be taken into consideration. So moving to Dr. Brilliant, you mentioned the whole part about trust, and so did Mr. Oberoi, and you also mentioned that there is lack of clarity of goals, lack of clarity in the employees. How is my R&R going to happen? What about engagement? What about trainings? So often organizations make that mistake to not clarify that. So in your experience, what strategies you think have worked for companies to keep the remote employees, engaged and motivated in the long term?
Thanks, Shivani. And I'll use what Purnima mentioned, VELA as an acronym. Okay. V stands for value. And I think individuals and circumstances are unique. Some need it because of circumstances that they are in. Some of them are mandated to operate remotely or in office, and some choose it, right? You mentioned Generation Z that today says that I want it this way. I think respecting everyone helps in creating a culture of not just inclusivity, but going a step beyond and saying that you belong to this company. And I was in one conversation, very interesting conversation. It says that if everyone starts thinking and doing the same, there is no growth that happens. And that's the beauty. If we bring in diverse individuals and value them for who they are, their circumstances, I think a level of commitment comes in from them. The E in Vela stands for engagement beyond work. Sorry, but we've done online antaksharis, video lunches, but is it really working? The answer is no. There needs to be some serious thought in terms of how do we create effective online team bonding activities? Curate some social events where I'm happy to participate rather than being forced on the point of a gun to say, तेरे को करना पड़ेगा नहीं तो तेरा ना rating 1 point कम हो जाएगा. Why not think about all of these? And I think it was Purnima who spoke about mentoring. I think that's a wonderful concept. Today, the need of the hour is talk about how even in a remote or a hybrid mode, can I grow as an individual? And the icing on the cake for engagement, I would say at least once a year, get together all of them in a physical space. The need is definitely there. It will combat a lot of challenges that exist. The L of Vela is learning opportunities. And unfortunately, again, it's the OSFA model. We say, ये मेरा calendar है, देख लो तुमको चलता है तो ले लो. But when we talk of organizations, we talk of upskilling, we talk of reskilling, and we need to make opportunities which are equitable for everyone. It's not equal opportunities, it's equitable opportunity. Because my circumstances, again, for a person in Jharsuguda, they cannot be made to travel to a location to say, यार तुम 3 दिन का travel करो और फिर ये training करो. So make it available for them, not just for your special employees, the 789 box, but for everyone. And A of the Vela is achievement recognition. And I think we don't need to do big things. I've always believed in it. And as a company, our philosophy is do small things that have big impact. Recognize and celebrate small wins. You will not believe that one small e-certificate that you send, let's say Purnima, amazing job, signed by someone like, let's say TPS, and he says, well done. She's on the high. And these are things that matter the most, which give them a comfort that we are here and we need to start celebrating more. We need to move out of the box and start thinking about how we can celebrate small wins and make it a real party for people in the virtual mode. I think those are some things which can help move Vela from a negative standpoint to a positive Vela, value, engagement, learning, and achievement. Over to you, Shivani.
That's a very different, and I'm sure nobody has heard of this positive aspect of Vela. So, so that's good on the spot thinking, Dr. Brilliant. Purnima, since he's spoken about the Vela acronym, what are your thoughts on this?
I think first and foremost, this is brilliant. I mean, on the go, I'm not sure how smart can you be, Mr. Brilliant. So really appreciate that. And I think he covered most of the things that I wanted to speak, Shivani. One is definitely, building an inclusive culture and also making sure that people feel belonged. So equal opportunities, I think, in office or remote, let it be even as small as in terms of inclusive meetings where people's opinion also are heard from remote, employees. Training, giving the resources accessible to all of them equally, and engaging them, mentoring them, and creating an environment where they feel, saying whether you're remote or in working from office, you still belong to us, creating that belongingness. Second thing would be, focusing on impact that they create or the change they bring into in their job, and pushing employees to deliver beyond their job description, and understanding or creating a purpose for their job, instead of monitoring, saying how many hours did you log in, when did you log in, when did you log out. I think this is something that you create. I mean, that is what we follow here in Test Vagrant, though, saying that what matters is what difference you bring to the table. Whether you're in office or working remote, it does not matter. Whether you put in 8 hours today or you put in 10 hours tomorrow, it is left to you. So it is your job, and you plan what you deliver is what matters. And creating a very high learning curve, basically. So I personally believe that every individual success is organizational success. It is not the other way around.
Yeah.
So creating aspirations for everyone, saying that, okay, you work, you deliver, but what is not allowed is staying in the same place and just delivering. You need to keep getting a better version of yourself. So giving the liberty to them to plan whether they want to grow virtually, that is, I mean, whether they want to go grow vertically, that is get promoted, or they want to grow horizontally, saying you keep adding up your skills. So as an organization, on having a very strong mentorship program to help people or our employees to understand what their aspirations are and supporting it. So there is no like a stringent growth plan saying this is what you would be doing and this is where you belong. Because there could be, like, if there is a promotion, there could be people who are not interested, like you were mentioning about Gen Z and the people of this generation, right? So I mean, just to quote an example here, we were having, I mean, the HR, our team was conducting some activity, and they were asking, what is your dream job? And then one guy gets up, who's a young intern who joined. He's like, job? I don't have a dream to be in a job. Job is just a part of this. My dream is to travel the world. And that is when I realized, saying maybe, the dream job and all of this was at like previous generations. Right now, people don't dream of being in a job. They dream of something else. So I think, validating all of those things is very important. For us, it might feel that they are not serious about job. They are serious, they want to grow, but that may not be their ultimate kind of, goal of life. So I think inclusive with all of these things, and creating, inclusive environment is something that is required and will be encouraging for whether in office or remote. And also recognition, creating an appreciative culture. Like Mr. Brilliant was saying, it's not about the year and annual event that will matter. So it can't be that the entire year you keep self-doubting yourself or thinking whether I'm doing good or no. That doesn't matter. But the small appreciation you send on Slack or on messaging or wherever, saying, okay, this person did like a really good job, will put them on a different high. And whether they are remote or in office, I think they will give their 200%. That works as human beings. I think it works everywhere.
Correct.
These are some of my thoughts.
Great. Thank you, Purnima. And, those are some very relevant points that you mentioned, especially, about this, Gen Z part. I'll also just share one small incident. So this was during the time of COVID, when all of us were, working from home, and HR was mandated to do engagement activities. So we just did a random survey, and we asked people, okay, what kind of engagement activities would you want? So while there was a set of Enthu people who said we should have quizzes and we should have virtual parties and drinks and all of that, there was actually one section of people who said, you just let me go on time, let me log out at 6 o'clock. That is the biggest engagement that I will have. So I think it's extremely important to understand that recognition it does not have, or engagement does not have that OSFA, like Brilliant you said, one size fits all approach today. The engagement, the way to engage your millennials or the older generation is very, very different from what a Gen Z, like Purnima you said, for them dream job does not exist. It's a dream to travel. So we have to respect that as well. And because we do have a sizable workforce, and that's the the future workforce, by the way. So, so just wanted to, and taking one step further to that, I will, come to the next question, and that is, Tejinder, for you, that we just spoke about, remote working, people not feeling engaged. There's also a feeling of a burnout. So, what, according to you, and what, according to your experience, are some of the warning signs of remote work burnout, and how can companies proactively address that?
So I would still skip the the question of signs, and address it later. But what happens is, it is a game of expectations. The management has one set of expectations. The communication is another set of expectations, and the employee has a different set of aspirations. The sync between and management expectations, employees' aspirations, and communication between the two is a very, very vital thing in employee motivation. Management wants to sell more. Management wants to deliver what it has sold and make sure that invoicing happens. And they want their teams to be used for these functions. An employee has an absolutely different set of aspirations. He wants to grow in his career. He wants to do something else. Can we align that? Can the management align its objectives with an employee objective and make him a part of those objectives? If you're able to play this game correctly, we will have a far higher motivated employees. So basically, if he loves what he is doing and he is enjoying the whole perspective, normally what we are doing is we're giving them smaller tasks without giving them the complete perspective of the task. What difference will he make to the whole organization by doing this small task? Even if it's like, let's say it's like this, that if a person is fitting the nuts of a car in a car manufacturing facility, he has to be given an inspiration because if this comes out, it is a matter of life and death for the person who's driving that car. Now, here also, let's say if he is supposed to deliver, and what differences this delivery will make to the organization, and therefore he will also be covered in that thought process, is something I think we as HRs need to consider significantly, because most of us create charts for organizational growth. Okay, we'll grow by 20% this year, 25% this year, but finally we grew by this much. But where is my employee career path? Let's say whichever path he chooses, if he works on it, if he progresses seriously on his work career mode, let's say he upgrades himself, he delivers what is expected. Do I have a career path for him, which I can discuss with him? In most of our organizations, we normally don't have that. And even if we have that, it is on paper, we're really not able to translate it. Not that we don't have it, but in most cases, we're not able to translate it. So we want motivated employees. That is one thing. We want motivated employees to be aligning with our vision. Yeah, uske vision ka kya?
True.
If you say that, okay, the company has listed and the company has made a lot of money, is he also a beneficiary? So somewhere down the line, this aspect needs to be discussed with the management also and the employee, and it needs to be translated with the employee also. It may not be monetary only, because I've seen a lot of people. My perception is people are good, people are talented, but you put them into a wrong role and you have the best guy from IIT IIMs and you can screw up his motivation and career. So if you're addressing this situation, we have the right employee. Most of the time, let's say on a joining day, an employee comes up and we give him a file of policies to read or go through those presentations. And by the end of the day, when he goes home, his wife or his family asks him, how was your day? and he might have slept through all the boring presentations, and he has to murmur that, oh, it was fine. Can we change that? Can we make sure that he feels loved, he feels accepted, he feels a part of the system? Policies and procedures, though, more or less, आ ही जाएंगे ना.
Sure.
So that is where I think if we get that piece, we'll definitely be doing much more justice to the whole model. So whether the person is working hybrid, remote, or on-prem,
Sure.
can I get him to be aligned with my vision, my thoughts, my aspirations, and his aspirations? If we are together, we are in for it. Otherwise, a divorce is for sure.
Very nice points, Mr. Broy. What I like, what you mentioned, I think, is the synergy part, that there should be a synergy between the management expectations and the employee expectations for this marriage to work out. Otherwise, like you said, there will be divorce. And I think another valid point was around the career paths, which is so important for people. These are the real motivators. While recognition and engagement is only one piece in the puzzle of actually keeping somebody motivated, but I think career paths is a big one. And of course, compensation. Like you said, if the organization has made money, where am I? Where have I made that money? So all of those were really nice points. But coming back to my question, and Purnima, I'll pass this question to you. What about the burnout? What are some of the things? Is it for real, first of all? Is employee burnout for real in a remote setting? And if yes, then what can be done to avoid that?
Yeah, I think the burnout for remote employees is absolutely real. That happens. I myself have experienced it multiple times from pandemic till now. I think that is the downside of remote, because first and foremost, there's no line that you can draw. I lose track of time, whether it is 6, 7. At least when I'm in office, I know when to shut down my laptop and leave. There is a break, but that doesn't happen in remote. The first signs that I notice in employees is disengagement, basically. So they stop turning on their videos in meetings. So that's a sign saying, okay, something is happening, something is wrong. So assuming that all employees are happy working remote is also wrong, because there could be people who are working. I mean, especially mothers or even fathers who are there who need childcare and need to take care of home and also office. It becomes really tough, and it's really difficult for them to have a proper balance between the both. And you also start seeing a decrease in their productivity. So I have also come across a couple of employees who were really brilliant here in office with their ideas, creativity, and the way they used to think out of the box and give solutions for a lot of things. But once they start moving remote, once they moved remote, right, I think this started coming down. They started having challenge where these people uh, were very disengaged, and also productivity started. I mean, they were only delivering what is needed,
Needed, yeah.
basically, which is also okay. What I mean is their creativity level started dropping,
Yeah.
and
It
that is a
becomes
big sign.
transactional then. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they withdraw themselves from team interactions. Abhi, this is one challenge by handling remote employees, because if they are in office and you see something is wrong, you can always walk up to them and tell them, you know what, let's go for chai, or let's talk this over. But when it is a remote employee, right, you can do small talk, but there is always, it can't be 100%. So they started withdrawing the interactions, and they'll be like, okay, you know what, is it done? Am I done? And you don't know how to continue with that. I
Yeah.
think that is the biggest sign of burnout, which is tough to handle. And like I mentioned earlier, neglecting work-life balance
Yeah.
is one thing that you see in mothers. This is both the ways. I mean, you give flexibility and you have core working hours. They can also decide when they want to work. And also with the deliverables, they might have challenge in having a proper work-life balance. I think these are the signs that I see. And how we can fix this, basically, like for my own team, what I do is, I encourage regular breaks and monitor their breaks. It's not about monitoring work, but making sure that, okay, they are taking lunch break, they're not having lunch over calls, or all of these things are a strict policy that we have here. And trust, basically, do not over monitor. saying, don't overwhelm employees with remote. So we had a lead here who used to kind of give double their, deliverables if people are working remote, thinking that, they are saving 4 hours of commute, they're saving 3 hours of commute, so they can, deliver more logically. So I think that is something that we need to address as leaders, saying that, it is wrong. And setting clear expectation, like Mr. Brilliant and was mentioning, saying this is your responsibility and this is how we are going to deliver. And one major thing, Shivani, is focusing on mental wellness, basically. So what we did in Test Vagrant is we extended the wellness to the family. Basically, we don't stop with the employee. What we realized during the pandemic, or what we realized having mental well-being, is it's not enough only if you keep the employee happy. We also need to understand what's happening in the house. Let it be even your food or diet or your health and all of this. So we are partners with, we have health wellness partners who actually assign a care manager for the entire family. So they talk to their mom, they talk to their father, they talk to everybody to understand and give solutions. And the food chart that they give, the diet chart they give the entire family. So it's like they have in confidence where they kind of suggest what test they need to go through. They arrange for all of those things, and it worked out brilliantly for us for the past 2 years. We are kind of doing it. I think that is, and see, it's very difficult to measure if employees are happy. What you can only do is just trust, saying, okay, this is working out. When you take a survey or when you ask people for pulse, when they come
Yeah.
back saying, we need this, this is actually helping us. I think that is how you understand, saying that it is working out. I think these are the things that
Thanks.
we can do to avoid.
Thanks, Purnima. Those were very valid points that you made, especially around the mental health, mental wellness part. And it's great to see the initiatives. I think a lot of organizations have really focused on mental health ever since the pandemic, and organizations continue to focus on it even after the pandemic is over. So that's a great thing. I'd just like to share an example. So my team, we all work hybrid. We are in a consulting mode. We can work hybrid. But our personal experience is that the days that we work from home are the days that we work longer, we take lesser breaks, and sometimes there is no end time. And the days, so we all look forward to coming to office, because like you said, when you're in office, okay, let's go for a tea break, let's go for a coffee break. So that happens. And consciously now we have started doing one day in the week, which is a no meeting day. We're not going to have any meetings. We will do our own work. We'll update on the WhatsApp groups, etc. But we will have no meeting days. So that actually has helped in reducing the work-life balance part. The effect that it has on work-life balance is great. We felt that. But I totally agree that all of us at some point in time have felt this brunt of flexible working, which is remote working, wherein there are no boundaries to close. So, Brilliant, would you like to share your views on this?
Yeah, I was just going back to the good old days, and everyone mentioned it, right? When you're working from home, we are waiting for the transition from red to yellow to green. I hope you understand the tab on your MS Teams or any service which says you're busy, slightly available, and fully available. Now, it's a stress, right? What happens is there is not actually a work from home. It's actually an integration of home and office. वहां पे कुकर की सीटी बज रही है, यहाँ पे मैनेजर की गाली मिल रही है. Which one will you focus on? What's your priority? And let's be honest, truth be told, my priority will be on the home front at this point of time. Again, it's not that every time it will be the same. Priorities keeps changing. And as Purnima mentioned, and I would say make it like a government job. Sorry to use this term. It's not in a derogatory sense, but have fixed timings. Saying these are the timelines when you will operate, like 9 to 5, punch in, punch out. That's what it is. Mandatory time off. You spoke about, I think, what was it? No meeting day, right?
Yeah.
Shivani, you mentioned that. So why not have mandatory time off, saying that in a week, these many hours, we will not have any kind of online engagement. Whatever you want to do, you do it, but not in an online mode. And very important is, whether we realize it or not, staff members are not willing to admit that they are burning out. It's the most difficult part to admit. Even if there is a burnout, people will say, नहीं यार चलता है, हो जाएगा, कर लेंगे. And that's where I think what Purnima also mentioned makes a lot of sense, and we've found success in that is providing counseling services, right? Make sure that it's not a poke that you keep giving the staff every single time. Instead, it's a service which is available. We do a basic courtesy call, check if everything is fine. And we've had instances where people have come back while it's completely anonymous. They have come back and thanked us saying, thank you, Brilliant, for having these services. It helped me and my family during times of crisis. So somewhere I think we need to start moving beyond the concept of saying visibility equal to productivity. We need to start focusing on outcomes rather than just saying, यार तू दिखाई नहीं दे रहा, मीटिंग में नहीं आ रहा है. The Purnima mentioned it well. One of the red flags for me is if someone doesn't come on video, it means something is wrong. In the good old days, we could still get the garb of saying कि यार घर पे वो facility नहीं है. But today you have amazing backgrounds. You can create your own backgrounds. You can blur it. So many advancements of technology. You need to be on video. If you're not on video, you should start asking questions. क्या हुआ? क्यों नहीं हुआ? And I think if you're able to do these small checks, right, we will be able to tick box on a larger element of what we call as wellness. And that's where I think the overall discussion is. But I would just want to add to what TPS mentioned about profit sharing. That's something which I would say is DNHRD. दुखती नस पे हाथ रख दी.
I think if there was an award for crafting on the spot acronyms, today it will go to you, Brilliant, for sure. No, but I think you made some very valid points, especially visibility over productivity. And that's the reality. I think that's what productivity translates to visibility for a lot of people, and that's how. And I think it's got more to do with the mindset rather than anything else. It's the mindset. In the interest of time, we are here. We are nearing the end of this conversation, so I'd like to just go around the table and ask the virtual table and ask the last question, which is around how do you envision the future of this model? We all agree, we've all had a lot of discussion around what we can do to promote this, what are some of the deterrents, what are some of the burnout signs, and how we can work together to sort of cope up with that. So, so I'd like to ask you that how do you all finally envision the future of this model? Do you think that hybrid work is a permanent shift, or will companies revert to traditional structures? And what are the industries that are most likely to embrace this permanent remote work? And what are the industries that you think would be resistant? So, sort of concluding remarks from each one of you, starting with TPS.
Okay. We mentioned earlier also that this is here to stay. It will adapt itself into new formats. We'll possibly come up with better ways to manage it. AIs will be the very strong and let's say area where it will manage things or help us manage things in a very, very different format. How it will evolve, difficult to put it across or speak about it now, but things will evolve. I see technology, finance and healthcare and consulting have already adopted it. I see even industries like healthcare significantly adopting hybrid or remote working. Primarily looking at how IoT devices and AI are implementing themselves, monitoring healthcare of a patient from a remote location, or let's say the patient is at home, is becoming much more simpler, and possibly we'll see within this decade a lot of things being managed in healthcare also remotely. Manufacturing, a lot of functions which possibly do not require your physical presence will always be susceptible. People want to spend time with their family. People want to do things. They're okay to travel or do office work, but at the same time get flexibility. I had a very recent case wherein last week one of my employees' wedding reception was in the evening, and there was a critical task for which he had the credentials. And 6:30 his reception started. Between 5 and 5:30 he worked to clear that task. And that was possible because he agreed to work remote. So I think we wanting to adopt all the advantages of it, but there is nothing where the glass is full. So you always have a glass full and empty. So we want to look and enjoy the full part, but do not want to speak about it. We want to speak about the part that is empty and point it out towards employees. Employee burnout, you spoke about it earlier, and what I see is employees who slog it out get more work. Employees who are able to speak out and say, "Bus," get their work in that format. So possibly that has to be addressed, that employees need to be able to speak up on what they want to do, or is also very, very important. Yes, there will be bosses who will misuse those authorities, but then that is where we as HR people will have to play our role. But I think adapting the change along with more technology coming into this will be the key for the day.
Absolutely. So hybrid is a reality, and adopting technology will be the key to make this a success. Thank you. Thank you, TPS. Over to Purnima, your closing thoughts on this. You're on mute, Purnima.
I'm sorry. So if you ask me, right, I think the future of work is not about choosing one model over the other. It's not, is it hybrid or is it work from office? I think it's rather integrating the strengths of both and, optimizing productivity and employee wellness or employee satisfaction out of this. And if you ask me for this, do we actually need an office space? I think definitely yes. Rather than having a old style office where you come, log in, log out, I think offices are changing into more into a collaborative hub, or innovation or brainstorming place where teams come together, they meet when they want, like 1 or 2 days in a week, they discuss on the issues, they brainstorm and enjoy the time that they are there. And for the management, how it would benefit definitely would be, saving of the real estate cost. So you can kind of have smaller offices, and probably there's a huge budget if you look at for the company, and you can focus that on, like Mr. TBS mentioned, into tech, and also, on any other employee benefits, I guess. So there are few industries which definitely cannot move to remote, like you mentioned earlier, like hospitality, or to certain extent education and manufacturing, construction, and all of these things. But other than that, consulting, I think, research, tech, and HR to some extent, I think all of this can move to remote. That is what that would be my closing thoughts.
Thank you, Purnima. Thanks for your thoughts. I think you mentioned a very valid point that it is a combination of both. That's how you envision the future. Great. Brilliant. Any more? Sorry.
I'd like to add one point.
Sure.
She mentioned about workplaces. So we are having a program coming Tuesday from the chamber wherein we're basically talking of future of workplaces. So
excellent.
And we realize that that's also into an evolution path.
Great. Sure. Thank you. Brilliant. Any more acronyms from you to close the day?
Yeah, I want to actually stir the pot, not to dispute what TPS and Purnima said, but honestly, we cannot be Nostradamus. And based on how we have evolved, I believe even domain specificity will move out. What I see is a higher possibility of a remote surgery via robots in the future. Shivani, you mentioned that doctors probably cannot do it, but that is a possibility, right? And I would say it needs to be specific to what's happening to not just the industry, but also the changes with technology. And when we are talking about technology, technology will play a crucial role, and the focus will be on job, JOB, the acronym for you. A judicious focus on productivity and efficacy. Because that's the key, right? Today we have AI powered tools, data is freely available, repetitive tasks will move out. So if you are able to leverage technology, so that will become the norm. And most important, performance evaluations have always been subjective. It will move to objective data-driven performance evaluations. It's no longer based on what Purnima feels about me or what I feel about TPS. It is data-driven. And last but not the least, it's about the B of the job, which is building a collaborative system. Today, AI tools are so powerful that you cannot imagine the kind of collaborations that can happen. It can bridge gaps, right? But having said that, I want to leave all of you with one thought. Nothing is permanent. Maybe we will all get back to office. Who knows? November 1, 2023, ChatGPT disrupted lives. Cut to Jan 2025, DeepSeek came and disrupted what ChatGPT tried to do. So there is a meme that goes around saying that when ChatGPT came in, everyone was worrying about their jobs, and DeepSeek came in and took away ChatGPT's job. Reinforcing that nothing is permanent. We need to be adaptable and we need to be aware of what's happening. Agility is the only thing that will help us thrive in the environment.
Well
Over to you,
said.
Shiva.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you for the brilliant acronym to end it all as well. And for the, for adding this point on everything is dynamic, of course. We all know jobs that were, that we were all studying for no longer probably exist. And the ones that our children are studying for right now may not exist in the next 10 years. So it's all very unpredictable. My few cents on this to close this session. Very clearly, there is no one way. There has to be, I would say, a judicious blend of both, which is hybrid and in-person working, in office work, which is hybrid is in-person and remote both. But I think a lot of it depends on three things. And Brilliant, I've taken inspiration from you on the spot, and here's an acronym to end it all. it's called FIGHT, okay, FIET. So it has to be function specific. So for the industries that cannot, move into, we all spoke about it, Purnima spoke about it, you spoke about it, TPS spoke about the industries that cannot move to a hybrid mode. Still, there are functions that can work in a hybrid mode, like, technology, like HR, maybe other service functions. So F, it has to be function specific. I, industry specific, like we all agree, there are certain industries which probably never will be able to move into a hybrid model, but we don't know. Like you said, change is the only constant. The E is for employee specific. So even though hybrid may not be the need of everyone, but it is a need for a certain section of employees. And organizations have to recognize that and, accordingly think of a model. But all of this depends on the T, which is the technology. So technology, I think, has the major role to play if this model has to be a success. Technology to do all this seamlessly is at the bedrock of it. So with that, I'd like to close today's session. It was absolutely wonderful interacting with all of you. I thoroughly enjoyed this session. Thank you so much for your time. It was really lovely to be with all of you.
Thank you, Shivani. I think we're already flying. We're already flying from home. The drones are flying from a remote location, so possibly we're looking at jobs. So that's also there. I think warfare also will reach homes. will be work from home in coming days. But it was
I
fun.
thoroughly
It was fun
enjoyed
engaging.
talking to
It was fun
you.
engaging here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Shivani,
Thank
and
you.
thank you, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Great,
HRAI, for this platform. It was a
great
good
time
topic.
management. Yeah, great time management.
Thank you,
Thank you
thank you,
very much.
Shivani, for expertly guiding us through this insightful session on the shift to hybrid and remote work. Your perspective and intuitive insights helped us navigate the complexities and opportunities of this evolving workplace model. Our sincere appreciation to Dr. Brilliant, Mr. Tejendra, and Ms. Purnima for generously sharing their valuable perspectives. It has been an absolute honor to have such distinguished speakers enrich this discussion. For those eager to revisit today's insights, the session recording is available on our YouTube link shared in the chat window. A special thanks to our event partners, Glacia, NASCOM COE, Talgro, TLE, WICCI, LinkedIn Local Ahmedabad and India, for their invaluable support in making this event a success. To learn more about these associations, please refer to the links provided in the chat. We look forward to welcoming you to our next session on the topic diversity, equity, and inclusion on February 28, 2025. With that, we conclude today's webinar. Thank you for being part of this journey. Wishing you health, positivity, and success until we meet again. Take care and well for now.
Thank you, guys.
Shivani.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Stay connected.
Absolutely.
Sure.